I took my husband's phone to get fixed. The man who fixes phones is my neighbor. He knows our family well. He called me over and whispered, "You need to cancel your credit cards right now. Change all the locks on your doors today." I was so confused. "Why? What's wrong?" I asked him. He turned the phone screen toward me. "Look at these messages. They're set to send later. You need to see what they say. Please subscribe to Granny's Voice and tell me where you're watching from in the comments." Sometimes the small choices we make change everything. The things we do without thinking too much. The everyday stuff that feels normal and safe. That Wednesday morning in Seattle, I made one of those small choices. I grabbed my husband Thomas's phone from the kitchen counter. He had been complaining about the broken screen for weeks. I decided to finally take it to Danny's repair shop on Pike Street. My name is Margaret Chan and I'm 64 years old. I've been married to Thomas for 38 years. We raised 2 daughters in our little house near Green Lake. We watched them grow up, get married, and move to different cities. They come home for holidays with our grandkids. I worked as a school teacher for 35 years before I retired. Thomas still works as an accountant 3 days each week. He talks about retiring fully soon. We are normal people, comfortable people, safe people. That morning, Thomas had already gone to work. The night before, he had been acting strange, walking around the house, checking his phone over and over. When I asked what was bothering him, he gave me a fake smile. The kind of smile he uses with clients he doesn't like. He said, "Just some problems with a client's taxes. Nothing for you to worry about, Margaret." I learned a long time ago not to push Thomas when he talks like that. Our marriage worked because we each had our own space. He handled the money, handled the home. He made big decisions. I made them easier to accept. It worked fine. It always worked fine. Danny's Electronics sits between a pizza place and a flower shop. It's the kind of small business that stays open because everyone knows and trusts the owner. Danny Martinez had been fixing our family's phones and computers for 12 years. His son was in my class years ago. His wife brings me homemade tamales every Christmas. He was like family to us. The bell rang when I walked in. Danny looked up from a computer he was working on. His glasses sat on top of his bald head. "Mrs. Chen, what brings you here today?" "Thomas's phone," I said, holding it up. "The screen has been cracked for a month now. He keeps saying he'll bring it in, but you know how men are." Danny laughed. That friendly laugh of someone who understands. "Leave it with me. I'll have it done by 3 o'clock. "What's the password?" I told him the 6 numbers. Thomas's father's birthday. He used those same numbers for everything. Simple and easy to remember. Thomas wasn't someone who liked complicated things. "Perfect. I'll call you when it's ready." I spent the day doing my normal things. Wednesday morning walking group at the park. Lunch with Susan, my friend for 25 years. She talked about her son's new job with the kind of proud voice that mothers have. Grocery shopping. I bought chicken for dinner. The organic kind that Thomas likes best. Costs more money but it makes him happy. The call came at 2:30. "Mrs. Chen, it's Danny. The phone is fixed, but..." He stopped talking. In that pause, something felt wrong. "Could you come back to the shop? There's something you need to see." "Is something wrong with the repair?" "No, the screen is perfect. Just please come back. And please come by yourself." I had known Danny for 12 years. I had never heard him sound scared before. Worried, yes, but not scared like this. The drive back to Pike Street took 10 minutes. I counted every single one. When you're 64 years old, you learn to notice the moments before everything changes. Your body knows something is wrong before your brain understands it. My hands didn't shake on the steering wheel, but my heart was beating too fast. Danny was waiting at the door. He locked it behind me and flipped the sign to say closed. He took me to the back room where he fixes things. Thomas's phone sat on the table. The screen looked new and shiny. "Margaret," he said. He never calls me by my first name. This was personal now. Not business anymore. I need you to listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you. Cancel all your credit cards today. Right now. Change the locks on your house. Do it before you go home. The room felt like it was spinning. I held on to the table. What are you talking about? When I was moving data to test the new screen, I found something. Messages that are scheduled to send later. Messages that Thomas wrote. Danny's face looked sick. I almost didn't look at them. I wish I hadn't. But you need to see these, Margaret. He picked up the phone and unlocked it with the code I had given him. He opened the messaging app. Then he showed me something I didn't know existed. Scheduled messages. Messages written now but set to send on future dates. There were 9 of them. All going to the same phone number. All scheduled to send over the next 4 months. Danny handed me the phone. I'm so sorry, Margaret. I read the first message. Then the second one. By the third message I had to sit down. The messages were from Thomas to someone called M. They weren't love letters. Nothing that simple. They were instructions. Cold instructions. Like a shopping list. But a shopping list for something terrible. The insurance policy is in the safe behind the painting. The code is 18-32-09. The payout is $500,000. Margaret's name is on all the papers. The insurance company won't ask questions. I've been telling Dr. Wilson that Margaret is forgetting things. That she's confused all the time. He's writing it all down in her medical file. This will help explain things later if anyone asks questions. The will gives everything to our daughters. But I control everything until they get it. After the estate is settled, I can access all the money. No one will suspect anything. Maybe 6 months. Maybe 8 months. Then we're free. Remember to act sad. I'll be the heartbroken husband. Everyone in the neighborhood will feel sorry for me. No one questions a man whose wife died after 38 years of marriage. My eyes couldn't focus right anymore. The phone felt heavy in my hands. Like it weighed more than anything should weigh. I scrolled to the last message. It was scheduled to send 4 months from now. It's finished. The funeral happened yesterday. Everything went exactly like we planned. I'll meet you in Phoenix next week. The apartment is ready. Our new life begins now. The date on that last message was February 15th. 4 months from today. In Thomas's mind, I would be dead by February 15th. Danny was talking, but his voice sounded far away. Margaret, I don't know who M is. I don't know what Thomas is planning. But these messages. Margaret, he's writing about your death before it even happens. He's planning something bad. I looked up at Danny. His face was white and his hands were shaking. He had known me for 12 years. He had fixed my laptop when I accidentally broke it. He had helped me put photos of my grandkids on my tablet. He had taught me how to video call during the pandemic when I couldn't see my family. And now he was showing me proof that my husband of 38 years wanted me dead. Have you told anyone else about this? My voice sounded strange to my own ears. How come? No. No. I called you right away. Danny rubbed his face with both hands. We need to call the police. Right now, Margaret. No. Margaret, no. No, I said again. This time my voice was stronger. If we call the police now, what proof do we have? Messages on a phone. Thomas will say they were fake. That he was writing a story. That he was joking around. He's a respected accountant. I'm a retired teacher. He's been telling people I'm forgetting things. Who will they believe? Danny opened his mouth but then closed it. He knew I was right. I looked at the phone again. At the messages that described my death like a dentist appointment. Cold and scheduled and certain. I need copies of all of these, I said. Every single one. And then I need you to fix this phone like nothing happened. Can you do that? Margaret, what are you going to do? I thought about Thomas walking around last night. Checking his phone over and over. Was he checking these messages? Making sure they were still scheduled? Planning my murder the same way he planned our summer vacation last year? I'm going to find out who M is, I said quietly. I'm going to find out exactly what Thomas is planning. And then I'm going to make sure that the only funeral in February is for his accounting career. Danny stared at me for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. He pulled out his own phone. I'll take photos of everything. I'll email them to myself. Evidence. While he photographed each message, I made myself read them again. I forced myself to look past the fear and shock, to focus on what the messages were actually saying. Thomas had been planning this for months, maybe longer. He had been talking to our family doctor, making me look like I was losing my mind. He had been going through our finances, our insurance, our will. He had found someone. This person called M. Someone to help him. Or maybe someone to run away with after I was dead. And he had been so sure it would work, so confident, that he had scheduled messages to send after I died. Timeline of his success. But he made one big mistake. The kind of mistake that men like Thomas always make. He thought I was weak. He looked at his 64-year-old wife with her walking group and lunch dates and chicken dinners. And he saw someone easy to erase. He forgot that teachers are good at finding information. That we know how to research. How to follow clues. How to build a case from small pieces of evidence. He forgot that women my age don't survive this long by being stupid or naive. Danny finished taking photos of the messages and gave me back the phone. What now? Now you fix this screen perfectly, I said. And when Thomas picks it up tomorrow, you tell him everything worked great. No problems at all. No data lost. And you? I put the phone in my purse. I'm going home to make dinner. And then I'm going to discover every secret Thomas has been hiding. I walked out of that repair shop into the October afternoon. The sun was going down over Puget Sound. The water looked orange and red. Beautiful but deceiving. Like 38 years of marriage that hid murder plans underneath. Thomas wanted me dead by February 15th. He was going to be very disappointed. I cooked chicken that evening. The organic kind he likes. 4 minutes on each side. Lemon and herbs on top. Green beans on the side. I moved through our kitchen. The kitchen with white tiles I picked out. The pots that Thomas's mom gave us when we got married. I felt like a stranger in my own house. Thomas came home at 5:30. The same time as always for 38 years. I heard his key in the door. His footsteps in the hallway. He walked into the kitchen still wearing his work clothes. He smiled at me. Something smells great, he said. He kissed my cheek. His lips felt cold. How was your day? I asked. My voice was normal. Steady. The voice I had practiced for 38 years. Long. Mr. Patterson needed help with his taxes. You know how he talks and talks. Thomas loosened his tie. That familiar motion of coming home. I had watched it thousands of times. What did you do today? This was the test. I put down the spatula and looked at him. I took your phone to Danny's shop. He'll have it ready tomorrow after he runs some final tests. You can pick it up then. I watched his face carefully. Watched for panic, fear. Any sign that he remembered what was hidden in that phone. Nothing. His smile didn't change at all. Oh, wonderful. Thank you, honey. I kept forgetting to do that. He went to get a drink from the fridge. Did Danny say it would work okay? Perfect as always, I said. And I turned back to the chicken. He didn't suspect anything. He had planned my murder so carefully that it never crossed his mind that the phone might give him away. Or maybe he had just forgotten about those scheduled messages. Hidden in a feature he thought I would never find. Pride. That would destroy him. We ate dinner at the table. Just the two of us in the dining room that used to seat 4 when the girls lived here. Thomas talked about a new secretary at his office. About the Seahawks game last weekend. About our daughter Amy's visit for Thanksgiving. Normal talk. Comfortable lies wrapped up in 38 years of routine. Actually, Margaret, Thomas said, putting down his fork. I've been thinking about the holidays. Maybe we should have everyone here this year. The whole family. It might be our last big gathering before. He stopped talking. Made a vague gesture with his hand. Before what? Yes. Ice formed in my stomach. Before we get too old for this big house, he said smoothly. I've been thinking we should move somewhere smaller. Maybe a condo. Less work to take care of. He reached across the table, patted my hand. And honestly, Margaret, I've been worried about you. The stairs. Your memory lately. I think somewhere smaller and easier would be better for you. My memory. He was doing it right now. At dinner. Making it sound like I was weak and confused. Building his story. How many other people had he told this to? How long had he been creating this lie? My memory is fine, I said quietly. Of course it is, honey. That fake smile again. I just want what's best for you. For us. After dinner, Thomas went to his office. A room I rarely went into. His space with tax papers and client files. I cleaned the kitchen slowly and carefully. Then I went upstairs to our bedroom. I looked at it differently now. The bed we had shared for 38 years. The photos on the dresser. Our wedding. The girls when they were little. Grandchildren. Thomas's reading glasses on his nightstand. My puzzle books next to the lamp. Which side of the bed would Em sleep on after I was dead? I sat at the small desk in the corner. Opened my laptop. Started searching. Finding Em wouldn't be easy. Just one letter. No trail to follow. But Thomas was predictable. Creatures of habit leave patterns. I started with his email. I had known his password forever. The same numbers as his phone. His father's birthday. He never bothered hiding his accounts from me. Why would he? I was just Margaret. His agreeable wife who never argued. Never questioned. His inbox looked normal. Emails from work. Confirmations for golf tee times. Newsletters from investment companies. I scrolled back 3 months. 6 months. Looking for any emails to someone with an M name. Nothing. I checked his sent folder. His deleted emails. His spam folder. Hours went by. Downstairs, I heard Thomas's office door open. His steps going to the kitchen for his nightly tea. The house made its familiar sounds around me. And I kept looking. At midnight, I found the first clue. It was in a folder I almost missed. Labeled Work Files. Hidden among real work emails was a message from 4 months ago. To someone named M. Rivers. The contract is ready for you to look at. Once we finalize this, we can move forward with a business deal. I've attached the financial documents you asked for. As you can see, the accounting practice brings in good money. More than enough for both of us. Business deal. Rivers wasn't a girlfriend. Or not just a girlfriend. This was about money. I opened the attachment. It was a detailed financial report of Thomas's accounting practice. But the numbers didn't match what he had shown me on our taxes. The practice was worth almost $1.5 million. 3 times more than I thought. And there was a note at the bottom. Asset liquidation timeline. February 2025. February. The month I was supposed to die. My hands shook as I searched for more emails from M. Rivers. There were 8 more. Each one carefully hidden in that fake work folder. The story came together slowly. Like a photograph developing in a darkroom. Rivers. Melissa Rivers. Was a business consultant Thomas had hired 7 months ago. The emails started professional. Talking about practice valuation and finding buyers. But by the 4th email the tone changed. I appreciate your discretion about the personal side of this transition. As we discussed, a clean break from your current situation will make the sale and move much simpler. I look forward to our new arrangement together. Current situation. He meant me. Then in an email from September. I found the apartment in Phoenix. 2 bedrooms with a pool. As you requested. We can buy it as soon as your affairs here are wrapped up. I'm attaching photos. I think you'll love it. I clicked the attachment. A luxury apartment. All modern and shiny with big windows showing the desert. $1.2 million according to the listing. To be bought with money from Thomas's practice. And probably my life insurance money too. I took screenshots of everything, emailed them to myself at an address Thomas didn't know about. Then I cleared my browser history. It was after 1 in the morning when I finally got into bed next to my husband. He was already asleep, snoring softly, one arm across my pillow. I lay in the dark listening to him breathe. How many nights had we slept like this? How many mornings had I woken up next to him? How had I never seen what was underneath the surface? Or had I seen it and just chosen to ignore it? The next morning I drove to the Seattle Public Library, the main one downtown where I had worked for many years before I became a teacher. I knew every corner of that building, every resource, every database. More importantly, I knew the people who worked there. Margaret. Carol Hughes, the head research librarian, looked up with a big smile. What brings you in? Missing us already? Can't stay away, I said, smiling back. Carol, I need help. I need to research someone quietly, without leaving traces. Carol's smile faded. She had worked with me for 15 years. She knew when something was wrong. Come into my office. I told her part of the truth. That I suspected Thomas was planning something with money. Possibly selling his practice. Possibly planning to leave me. That I needed information about his business partner. I didn't mention murder. Not yet. That truth was too big. Too impossible to say out loud. Melissa Rivers, Carol repeated, typing on her computer. Let's see what we can find. What we found over the next 4 hours was damning. Melissa Rivers was 38 years old. A business consultant who specialized in buying and selling accounting practices. She had worked on 15 practice sales in the past 6 years. She was based in Portland but traveled for work. She was divorced with no kids. And according to her LinkedIn profile, she had recently relocated to Seattle to oversee a major new acquisition. She's local. Yes. Very local. Carol clicked through to property records. She bought a condo 6 months ago. First Hill neighborhood. Pay cash. $600,000. Where would a business consultant get that much money? Carol must have seen the question on my face. Want me to dig deeper? Please. By lunchtime, Carol had traced Melissa Rivers's financial history through public records and business registries. The woman was drowning in debt. Her previous business had failed badly 3 years ago. She owed banks. She owed creditors. She had nothing. The Seattle condo had been purchased through a shell company. And the money. Carol's eyes went wide when she found this. The money had come from an account belonging to Thomas's accounting practice. Margaret, Carol said carefully. This woman appears to be stealing from your husband's practice. Or he's giving it to her willingly, I finished. Thomas had given Melissa Rivers $600,000. He had promised her a luxury apartment in Phoenix. He was planning to sell his practice for $1.5 million and disappear with her in February. And the only thing in his way was me. There's something else, Carol said. Her voice dropped low. I found court records. Melissa Rivers was investigated for fraud in Oregon 4 years ago. An older client accused her of manipulating him into signing over his money. The case was dismissed. Not enough evidence. But Margaret. She has a pattern. Fraud against older people. I was 64 years old. Thomas was 66. How stupid does he think I am? I whispered. What? He's being tricked. He thinks he's planning my death. But she's planning his. I looked at Carol. The pieces falling into place in my mind. He's giving her money. Making me look incompetent to justify the murder. Probably writing a will that benefits her somehow. And once I'm dead and he's killed me, she owns him. He'd be a murderer. She could control everything. Carol's face had gone pale. Margaret, we need to call the police. Right now. And tell them what? That my husband might be planning something based on scheduled messages and money transfers that could all have innocent explanations. I shook my head. I need more proof. I need to know exactly how he plans to kill me. How will you? My phone rang. Thomas's number. I answered, keeping my voice calm. Hello. Margaret, where are you? Thomas's voice was tight. Angry or scared. I couldn't tell which. The library. Why? I need you to come home right now. We have a visitor. Who? There was a pause. Then, Dr. Wilson stopped by. He says you were too nervous to come to the office. So he agreed to do a house call. To review the cognitive tests he says he has on file for you. The room tilted. I haven't had any cognitive tests. Yes, you have. Last month. Don't you remember? His voice took on that fake concerned tone. Margaret, this is exactly what worries us. Please come home. Dr. Wilson is waiting. He hung up. I stared at my phone. Carol watched me with fear on her face. He's creating fake medical records, I said slowly. He's bringing our family doctor into this. Creating documents that say I'm losing my mind. Building his case right now. Margaret, if I go home, Dr. Wilson will examine me. Thomas will have coached him on what to find, what to write down. He'll create a paper trail showing I'm incompetent. I stood up. My legs felt unsteady. And once that trail exists, when I die, no one will question it. It is sad. A woman with dementia. Maybe an accident. Maybe she got confused with her pills. That was his plan. Not violence. Nothing that would leave obvious evidence. Just a slow documented decline that would make my death seem normal. Expected. Sad but not suspicious. What are you going to do? Carol asked. I thought about Thomas waiting at home with Dr. Wilson. I thought about Melissa Rivers in her downtown condo bought with my husband's money. I thought about those scheduled messages counting down to my death. I'm going home, I said. And I'm going to take that cognitive assessment. And I'm going to pass it perfectly. And then I'm going to find out every detail of their plan. And I'm going to take it apart piece by piece. I picked up my purse and headed for the door. Carol, I need you to keep researching. Everything you can find on Melissa Rivers. Every case she worked. Every client she had. Can you do that? Of course. But Margaret, be careful. I've been careful for 64 years, I said. It's time to be something different. I drove home through Seattle streets. Past the Space Needle where tourists took photos. Past the coffee shop where Thomas and I used to have Sunday brunch. Everything looked normal. Beautiful. Peaceful. Everything was a lie. Dr. Wilson's car sat in our driveway. A silver Toyota. I parked next to it and checked my face in the mirror. Neat. Composed. Completely sane. I walked into my house. My husband and my doctor were waiting in the living room. On the coffee table between them was a folder. It said, Cognitive Assessment, Margaret Chen. Thomas smiled at me. There you are, honey. Dr. Wilson has some concerns he wants to discuss. Of course, I said. I sat down in the chair across from them. As Dr. Wilson opened that folder full of fake test results, I realized something important. Thomas had forgotten something in all his careful planning. I had spent 35 years as a teacher. I knew how to research, how to document, how to build an airtight case. And I had spent 38 years as his wife. I knew his patterns, his habits, his weaknesses. He had made me invisible by thinking I was weak. Now that invisibility would be my greatest weapon. Now then, Margaret, Dr. Wilson began, pulling out papers. Your husband brought you in last month for some routine cognitive testing. Do you remember that visit? I looked him straight in the eye. And I lied with 38 years of practice behind me. Dr. Wilson's cognitive assessment was designed to make me fail. I saw that right away. The way the questions were structured. The way Thomas watched me. Waiting for me to mess up. What year is it, Margaret? 2024. October 10th. Wednesday. You're wearing the blue tie your wife gave you for your anniversary last month. I was at the party. And you had salmon for dinner last night because I can smell it on your breath. Dr. Wilson blinked. Next to him, Thomas's jaw got tight. The assessment went on for 45 minutes. I answered every question perfectly, said numbers backwards and forwards, drew clock faces with exact hands, named objects, remembered lists. I was polite, sharp, and undeniably competent. Well, Dr. Wilson said finally, closing his folder with a snap. Your cognitive function appears completely normal today, Margaret. Perhaps there was an error in the previous testing. Perhaps there was no previous testing, I said quietly. The room went silent. Thomas's face stayed carefully neutral, but I saw his hands clench on the chair. Margaret, he started. You're confused. No, Thomas. I'm not. I turned to Dr. Wilson. Doctor, I've never been to your office for cognitive testing. I've never had an appointment for dementia screening. But you have a folder with my name on it, with fake results. I'd like to know how that happened. Dr. Wilson's face turned red. Mrs. Chen, I can assure you these records are. They're fake. I stood up, walked to the coffee table, picked up the folder. This is dated September 15th. On September 15th, I was in Portland at a teaching conference. I have hotel receipts, conference attendance records, photos with other teachers. I wasn't anywhere near your office. I had checked the dates that morning at the library, pulled up my calendar, my credit card statements. I knew Thomas would have created some kind of paper trail, and I needed to prove it was fiction. There must be some mistake, Dr. Wilson said. But his voice had lost its confidence. He was looking at Thomas now, confusion and the first hint of worry crossing his face. Yes, I agreed. There has been a mistake. A deliberate one. I opened the folder, pulled out the assessment forms. These aren't even your real forms, doctor. The letterhead is wrong. The address says Suite 320, but your practice is in Suite 230. I know because I've been there many times over the years. Someone made these documents, but they weren't careful enough. Thomas stood up suddenly. Margaret, I think you need to rest. You're obviously upset. I'm not upset. I'm clear-headed. Possibly for the first time in years. I turned back to Dr. Wilson. Doctor, did my husband ask you to create false medical records? Or did he create them himself and plan to have you validate them? I don't. Dr. Wilson was stammering, gathering his papers with shaking hands. I think there's been a serious misunderstanding. Thomas, perhaps we should discuss this privately. That's an excellent idea, Thomas said smoothly, moving toward the door. Margaret, why don't you rest upstairs while Dr. Wilson and I sort this out? No. The word came out harder than I intended. I'm not going anywhere. Doctor, I think you should leave now. And I think you should think very carefully about what you say about this visit. Because false medical records are a serious crime. Dr. Wilson practically ran out. I heard his Toyota start. The sound of gravel as he backed out too fast. Thomas and I stood in the living room, facing each other across 38 years of marriage. Margaret, he said finally, his voice taking on a reasonable tone. I know how this looks, but you have to understand. I'm worried about you. I've been worried for months. Your memory. Your confusion. Stop. I held up one hand. We both know I'm not confused. We both know exactly what's happening here. Something changed in his face. The mask of concern slipped for just a moment, and I saw underneath it, cold calculation, annoyance that his plan had gone wrong. What exactly do you think is happening? He asked quietly. I think you're planning to have me declared incompetent so you can control our money. I think you're involved with someone named Melissa Rivers. I think. His hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. Not hard enough to hurt, but hard enough to shock me. In 38 years, Thomas had never grabbed me like that. You've been going through my things, he said. His voice was different now. Colder. My emails. My files. Your unlocked accounts, I corrected, pulling my wrist free. You never bothered to hide anything. You never thought I'd look. You underestimated me. Clearly. He stepped back, ran a hand through his hair. When he looked at me again, the mask was back. but thinner now. Through. All right. Let's talk honestly then. Yes, I'm planning to sell the practice. Yes, Melissa is helping me. We've become close. I wasn't sure how to tell you. How to tell me you're planning to leave. Or how to tell me you're planning to kill me first. The words hung in the air between us. Thomas's face went white, then red with anger. That's insane, he said. But his voice shook. I would never. February 15th, I said. That's the date on your scheduled messages. The ones where you tell Melissa M, as you call her, that the funeral is over and your new life is starting. I've read them all, Thomas. Every single word. He sat down hard on the sofa, put his face in his hands. For a long moment he didn't speak. When he finally looked up, there were tears in his eyes. I never meant for you to find out like this, he said quietly. Margaret, I'm so sorry. But you have to understand. I've been unhappy for years. Decades maybe. This marriage, this life. It's been suffocating me. Melissa makes me feel alive again. The tears shocked me most. They looked real. Maybe they were. Maybe he actually believed his own justification. So leave, I said. Get a divorce. You don't need to kill me to be with her. It's not that simple. He wiped his eyes. Now his voice took on a pleading quality. The practice, the house, everything we've built, it's all joint assets. A divorce would destroy me financially. The practice is worth $1.5 million, Margaret. I've worked my entire life for that. I can't give half of it away. So you'd rather kill me for it? No. No. I never. He stopped. Seemed to reconsider. The messages weren't serious. They were fantasy. Role-playing. Melissa and I, we were just... Don't. I felt something break inside me. Some last thread of the woman I'd been. Don't insult me with more lies. I know about the apartment in Phoenix. The $600,000. You've already given her. Her history of fraud. I know everything. Thomas's face went hard. If you know everything, then you know you can't stop this. I'm executor of the will. I control medical decisions if you become incompetent. And with Dr. Wilson's records, I can have you declared incompetent whenever I choose. You have no power here, Margaret. You never did. Dr. Wilson won't back false records now. Not after today. Won't he? Thomas smiled. And it was a terrible smile. He's been my friend for 20 years. We play golf together. Our wives are friends. And he's the one who will face consequences for those fabricated records. Not me. I'll tell him you found them. That you created them yourself as part of your dementia. Proof that you're delusional. Paranoid. Who do you think he'll protect? His reputation or yours? The truth of it hit me like ice water. Dr. Wilson would protect himself. Which meant protecting Thomas's story. I'd cornered them both. And now they'd have no choice but to double down on the lie. And if you try to tell anyone else, Thomas continued, standing now, moving toward me with that same measured calm, I'll have you committed for psychiatric evaluation. 72-hour hold. Minimum. And when you come out, if you come out, you'll have a psychiatric record to go along with your supposed cognitive decline. No one will believe anything you say. He was right. The system would believe him. The respected accountant. Over me. Especially with fabricated medical records and a psychiatric commitment to point to. I'd made a tactical error. I'd confronted him too soon. Before I had proof strong enough to withstand his counterattack. What happens now? I asked quietly. Now, Thomas checked his watch. Now I have a call to make. Then we're going to sit down and discuss this like rational adults. We're going to come to an agreement about how this marriage ends. Peacefully. Amicably. Or I make the call to have you evaluated. Your choice, Margaret. He walked out of the room. His phone already in his hand. I heard his office door close. I stood in our living room, shaking with rage and fear, and the awful realization that I'd underestimated him just as badly as he'd underestimated me. My phone buzzed. A text from Carol. Found something urgent. Can you come to the library? Won't call. Just come. I looked toward Thomas's study. Behind that closed door he was making his call. To Melissa. To Dr. Wilson. To someone else in this conspiracy. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. Where are you going? Thomas's voice came from the study doorway. Out, I said. We're not finished talking. Yes, we are. For now. I met his eyes. You said I have a choice. I'm making it. I'm leaving. If you walk out that door, then what? You'll have me committed. Go ahead. Why? But I'll tell them everything, Thomas. About Melissa Rivers. About the money you've given her. About the scheduled messages planning my death. Let's see whose story they believe. It was a bluff. I knew it. He probably knew it too. But it bought me time. I walked out of my house, got in my car, and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw Thomas standing in the doorway. His phone pressed to his ear, watching me go. The October afternoon had turned gray. Clouds rolling in from the Pacific. Rain was coming. I could smell it. At the library, Carol was waiting in her office, her face pale. What did you find? I asked. She turned her computer screen toward me. On it was a news article from the Portland Tribune, dated 9 months ago. Accountant found dead in apparent suicide. Business partner under investigation. I read the article with growing horror. Gerald Thompson, a Portland accountant, had been found dead in his home. An apparent suicide by medication overdose. His business partner, a consultant named Melissa Rivers, had been under investigation for financial irregularities, but was never charged. The practice had been sold shortly after. Assets liquidated. There's more, Carol said quietly, clicking to another article. 3 years before that. Another accountant in Spokane. Same pattern. Melissa Rivers as consultant. Sudden death. Practice liquidated. That case was ruled an accident. He fell down his stairs. How many? I whispered. For that I can find. Maybe more. Carol's hands were shaking. Margaret, she's done this before. She finds successful professionals, older men, helps them plan some kind of exit strategy, and then they die. And every time she walks away with a fortune. No charges filed. Men. All dead. All ruled suicide or accident. All after partnering with Melissa Rivers. Thomas doesn't know, I said slowly. He thinks he's using her. He thinks they're going to kill me and run away together. But she's planning to kill him too. After he kills you. Maybe even make it look like murder-suicide. Guilty husband. Dead wife. Tragic end. You need to warn him, Carol said. Why should I? The words came out bitter. He's planning to murder me. Maybe she should kill him first. Margaret, no. You're right. I pressed my hands to my temples, trying to think. If he dies, everything gets complicated. Insurance investigations. Estate battles. And our daughters. I stopped. Our daughters. Amy and Lisa. 2 adults who would be devastated by their father's death. Who would inherit everything. Who would never know their father had planned to murder their mother. Unless I could prove it. I need to talk to Melissa Rivers, I said. Face to face. That's insane. She's dangerous. She's killed at least 4 people. She's never been caught. Which means she's careful. Calculated. She won't risk exposure by doing anything to me directly. I grabbed my purse. Where does she live? First Hill. But Margaret. Trust me. I know what I'm doing. I didn't. Not really. But I was out of time for careful planning. Thomas was making his moves. And I needed to make mine faster. Melissa Rivers's condo was in a modern building near Swedish Hospital. All glass and steel. The kind of place that screamed expensive. Money she'd gotten from my husband. I buzzed her apartment. No answer. I tried again. Yes. Her voice came through the intercom. Smooth and educated. Miss Rivers, my name is Margaret Chen. I believe you know my husband, Thomas. I'd like to speak with you. Long pause. Then, come up. 6th floor. The elevator rose slowly, giving me time to second-guess every decision that had brought me here. But the doors opened, and there she was, waiting in her doorway. Melissa Rivers was beautiful, not in an obvious way. She was 38, with dark hair and sharp eyes. But there was something magnetic about her, an intelligence in her gaze that I recognized immediately. She was a predator, and she was very good at what she did. Mrs. Chen, she said, stepping aside to let me in. I've been expecting you. The condo was barely furnished but expensive. White walls, modern furniture, that million-dollar view of the city. Have you? Said. Thomas called me this morning. He's worried about you. He says you've been acting paranoid, going through his things, making accusations. She poured 2 glasses of wine, offered me one. I didn't take it. He's concerned you might be experiencing early dementia. How convenient for you both. Melissa smiled and sat down, the wine untouched. Let's not play games, Margaret. We're both intelligent women. You know what's happening. The question is, what are you going to do about it? I'm going to stop you, I said. Both of you. No, you're not. She sat on the white sofa, crossed her legs elegantly. Because you can't prove anything. Those scheduled messages. Thomas will say they were a joke. A game we were playing. The money. Business investments. The fake medical records. He'll blame Dr. Wilson. Claim he was misled. Everything can be explained away. You've done this before. 4 times at least. 4 dead men. Tragic coincidences. Her smile didn't waver. Investigated and cleared every time. Because I'm very careful, Margaret. And very patient. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to understand your situation. Melissa leaned forward. Thomas is planning to kill you. He's committed to it now. His practice is under contract. The money's been transferred. Our life in Phoenix is arranged. But here's what he doesn't know. I don't need him. I never did. My blood ran cold. What do you mean? I mean that Thomas served his purpose. He gave me access to his assets, put everything in motion. But once you're dead, he becomes a liability. A murderer with a guilty conscience. A man who might crack under pressure. Who might confess. He stood. Walked to the window overlooking the city. So here's what's going to happen. Thomas is going to kill you. However he's planned it. Whatever method he's chosen. And then, filled with remorse, he's going to kill himself. Tragic murder-suicide. The practice will be liquidated to settle the estate. And I, as his business partner and consultant, will facilitate that liquidation. For a substantial fee, of course. You're insane. I'm practical. And I'm giving you a choice. She turned to face me. Work with me. Help me prove Thomas is planning to kill you. We'll go to the police together. You the concerned wife. Me the worried business partner. We'll turn him in. Save your life. And he'll go to prison. The practice will still need to be sold. But you'll be alive to benefit from it. You want me to betray my husband. I want you to survive. And in return you split the practice sale proceeds with me. $750,000 for you. $750,000 for me. You get to live. Get paid. Thomas goes to prison. Everyone wins. Except Thomas, of course. I stared at her. This woman who had killed 4 men. And was now offering me a devil's bargain. Why would I trust you? Because you don't have a choice. Thomas is going to kill you, Margaret. Maybe this week. Maybe tonight. Your only chance is to act first. With me. She walked closer, her voice dropping. Or you can try to stop him alone. And end up just another tragic statistic. Another elderly woman with dementia who accidentally overdosed on her medications. My phone buzzed. Text from Thomas. Where are you? We need to talk. Come home. Melissa saw me read it. He's getting impatient, making his move. What's it going to be, Margaret? Partner with me and live? Or go home to your husband and take your chances? I looked at this woman who had killed 4 men, who was planning to kill my husband, who was offering me survival at the price of betrayal, and I realized that somewhere in the past 48 hours, I'd walked into a trap with no good exits. I need time to think, I said. You have until midnight. After that, I call Thomas and tell him you came here, that you know everything, that he needs to act immediately. Melissa's smile was cold. Choose wisely, Margaret. Your life depends on it. I walked out of that condo into the October rain, my phone buzzing with another text from Thomas. Margaret, please come home. I'm worried about you. I had 7 hours until midnight. 7 hours to decide whether to trust a serial killer or face my murderous husband alone. 7 hours to figure out how to survive a game where both players wanted me dead. I didn't go home. Instead, I drove to the one place in Seattle where I could think clearly. Kerry Park, overlooking Elliott Bay. The rain had stopped, leaving the October evening cold and sharp. I sat on a bench facing the water, tried to organize the chaos of the past 48 hours into something resembling a plan. Thomas wanted me dead for money and freedom. Melissa wanted Thomas dead for money and safety. Both of them believed I was expendable, easy to manipulate or eliminate. They were both wrong. My phone rang. Amy, my oldest daughter. I almost didn't answer, but a mother's instinct is hard to ignore. Mom, where are you? Dad called me. He's worried sick. I'm fine, Amy. I just needed some air. He says you've been acting strange. Paranoid. He mentioned something about fake medical records. Amy's voice carried the careful tone people use when they think they're talking to someone unstable. Mom, are you feeling okay? So Thomas was already working on the children, planting seeds, building his narrative. Amy, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Your father is lying to you. Mom, no. Listen, I repeated. He's planning something terrible. I found evidence. Evidence of what? Now Amy sounded truly worried. Not for me. For my mental state. Mom, Dad says you've been going through his things, making accusations about his business partner. He's really concerned about you. We all are. Me and Lisa. We're on our way up from Portland. We'll be there by tonight. We think maybe you need to see someone. Specialist. Dad found a really good facility. A facility. The words came out flat. He wants to have me committed. Not committed. Just evaluated. Mom, you sound like you're not yourself. Closed my eyes. This was Thomas's plan B. If he couldn't kill me quietly, he'd have me institutionalized. And once I was locked away, medicated, declared incompetent, he could do whatever he wanted with our assets, or life. And when I finally died in that facility, or after, no one would question it. Amy, on September 15th, where was I? What? September 15th. Where was I? I don't know. Why? Because your father has medical records claiming I was at Dr. Wilson's office having cognitive testing that day. But I was actually in Portland at a teaching conference. I have proof. Receipts. Photos. Attendance records. Someone created false documents, Amy. Someone is trying to make me look incompetent when I'm not. Silence on the other end. Then, why would Dad do that? Because he's planning to leave me. There's a woman named Melissa Rivers. He's given her $600,000. He's selling his practice. And he needs me declared incompetent so he can control everything without a messy divorce. That's... Amy's voice trailed off. That's crazy, Mom. Is it? Or does it explain everything that's been happening? Your father's secretive behavior, the sudden concern about my memory, the pressure to move somewhere smaller, to simplify our finances. Another pause. Longer this time. I'll ask him about it. Don't. The word came out sharper than I intended. Amy, please don't tell him we talked about this. Not yet. Just come to Seattle. Look at the evidence I have. Then decide what you believe. Mom, if what you're saying is true, it is true. And it's worse than you know. But I need you to trust me. Can you do that? She sighed. Babe, come. But I'm bringing Lisa with me. We'll all sit down together and figure this out. Thank you. I ended the call before she could hear my voice break. The sun was setting over the bay, painting the water red and gold, beautiful and cold, like everything else in my life lately. I had 4 hours until midnight. 4 hours until Melissa's ultimatum expired. I needed a plan that didn't involve trusting a serial killer or facing my husband's murder plot alone. Called Carol. I need everything you found on Melissa Rivers. All of it. And I need you to help me with something else. Anything. I need to document everything. Every email. Every financial transfer. Every piece of evidence. I need it organized, dated, cross-referenced. And I need it done in the next 3 hours. Margaret, what are you planning? I'm planning to survive. We worked in Carol's office. The library quiet around us after closing time. Carol printed emails, financial records, news articles about Melissa's previous victims. I wrote a detailed timeline of everything that had happened. Every discovery, every threat. We organized it all into a folder. Evidence that told a complete story. A story of a woman fighting for her life against 2 predators. This is enough to go to the police, Carol said, looking at the assembled documents. No, it's not. Everything here can be explained away. The emails are business correspondence. The money transfers are investments. The scheduled messages are, according to Thomas, jokes. Melissa was never charged in those other deaths. I closed the folder. I need something irrefutable. Confession. An action so clearly criminal that no one can deny it. How do you get that? By making them think they've won. At 8 o'clock, I called Melissa Rivers. I'll do it, I said. Your plan. I'll work with you. But I want guarantees. Come to my condo. We'll discuss terms. No. Public place. Coffee shop on Broadway. 9 o'clock. All right. Come alone. I didn't go alone. Carol followed at a distance. Sitting at a separate table with her laptop. Ready to document whatever happened. Melissa arrived exactly at 9. Sliding into the booth across from me. She ordered a latte. Smiled at the waitress like we were old friends having a pleasant chat. So you've decided to be smart, she said. I've decided to stay alive. That's not the same thing. Close enough. He pulled out a folder. Remarkably similar to the one I'd created with Carol. I've documented everything. Thomas's financial transfers to me. The fake medical records. The scheduled messages. Have copies too. He showed them to me. Thinking I'd be amused. Arrogant man. You expect me to believe you'll betray him. I'm already betraying him. The question is whether you're smart enough to accept help. She slid the folder across the table. This is everything the police will need. We go together tomorrow morning. We tell them we both discovered Thomas's plan. 2 credible witnesses. They'll arrest him immediately. I looked at the folder. It was comprehensive. Fleming. Almost too perfect. And after he's arrested. Yes. After you hire me to help liquidate the practice. I get my fee for the work I've already done. You get the rest. We both walk away clean. Except for the 4 men you killed. Her smile didn't waver. I didn't kill anyone. 4 men died. I had nothing to do with it. No evidence. No charges. No connection. And if you try to make a connection, you'll have to explain how you know about them. Which means explaining how you've been investigating me. Which makes you look paranoid. Unstable. She leaned forward. Face it, Margaret. I'm your best option. Your only option. What makes you think I won't go to the police myself? Right now. Because you're not stupid. You know they won't believe you without proof. And by the time you gather that proof, you'll be dead. He checked her watch. Speaking of which, my deadline has passed. You've made your choice by coming here. So let's. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it. Her expression changed just slightly. A tightening around her eyes. What is it? Asked. Thomas. He's asking where I am. She typed a response. Set down the phone. He's getting nervous. Making moves. What kind of moves? The kind that end with you dead. Probably tonight. He's asking me to come to your house. Says he needs help with something. She looked at me. He's planning to do it tonight, Margaret. And he wants me there to help stage it. Make it look like an accident. The coffee shop suddenly felt too cold. Too exposed. Through the window I could see Broadway. The evening pedestrians. The normal world going about its business. While my life teetered on a knife's edge. Then we call the police now, I said. And tell them what? That your husband texted his business partner. That's not a crime. Melissa stood. No, we stick to the plan. Tomorrow morning. We go in together with evidence. Tonight you stay somewhere safe. Hotel. Don't go home. He'll know something's wrong. Let him know. Let him panic. Panicked men make mistakes. She picked up her folder. I'll meet you at the police station tomorrow morning. 8 o'clock sharp. Don't be late. And don't do anything stupid. She left before I could respond. Disappearing into the October night. Carol appeared at my elbow. Did you get it? I pulled the small recording device from my purse. A digital recorder I'd borrowed from the library's equipment collection. Every word. She confessed to working with Thomas. She confirmed his plan to kill me. That's different. I pocketed the recorder. But it's a start. What now? Now I go home. Margaret, she said. She said Thomas is planning something tonight. Which means I need to be there to stop it. And to document it. Understood. Gathered my things. Carol, if something happens to me. If I don't call you by midnight. Take that folder to the police. Tell them everything. I don't like this. Neither do I. But I'm 64 years old. And I'm tired of being underestimated. By Thomas. By Melissa. By everyone who thinks age makes you weak. I touched her shoulder. Thank you for everything. I drove home through streets that had become unfamiliar. Threatening. Every car behind me might be following. Every shadow might hold danger. But I'd spent 38 years in that house. And I wasn't going to let fear drive me out of my own home. Thomas's car was in the driveway. The house was dark except for a light in the kitchen. I sat in my car for a moment, checking my phone. Text from Amy. We're on our way. Should be there by 10. Dad says not to wait up. Says you need rest. Rest. Another word for unconsciousness. Vulnerability. I texted back. Don't come to the house. Meet me at the police station tomorrow morning. 7:30. Bring Lisa. It's important. Then I got out of the car and walked toward my house. The front door was unlocked. I stepped inside. My senses heightened, aware of every sound, every shadow. Thomas, I called. In the kitchen, honey. I found him at the table. A bottle of wine open. 2 glasses poured. He smiled when he saw me. That same smile I'd seen 10,000 times before. Warm. Familiar. Deadly. I was worried, he said. I'm glad you're home. Are you? Of course. He gestured to the wine. Sit, please. We need to talk. I looked at the glasses. The wine was my favorite. A Pinot Grigio from Washington. Expensive. A bottle we saved for special occasions. What are we celebrating? Asked. Not moving. We're not celebrating. We're resolving things. He picked up his glass. Took a sip. I know you've been scared, Margaret. Confused. I know you found some things that worried you. But I can explain everything. If you'll just sit down and listen. I remained standing. Where's Melissa? His hand tightened on the glass. Melissa, your business partner. The woman you've given $600,000 to. The woman you're planning to run away with after I'm dead. Where is she? Margaret, for God's sake. She's not coming, is she? You texted her. Asked her to come help you. But she didn't respond. Because she's done with you, Thomas. She got what she wanted. And now you're alone. With a wife who knows everything. And a murder plot that's falling apart. Thomas set down his glass very carefully. When he looked at me, the mask was gone completely. No warmth. No pretense. Just cold assessment. How much do you actually know? He asked. Everything. The messages. The money. Melissa's history. The 4 men she killed. Your plan to make my death look like an accident. Pulled out my phone. Held it up. And I've recorded all of it. Evidence. Proof. Enough to send you to prison for conspiracy to commit murder. You're bluffing. Am I? I played back Melissa's voice from the recorder in my purse. He's planning to do it tonight, Margaret. And he wants me there to help stage it. Thomas's face went white, then red. He stood. And I saw his hands shaking. With rage or fear. I couldn't tell. You've ruined everything, he said quietly. 38 years. And you've ruined it all in 2 days. I ruined it. You planned to murder me. I planned to be free. He slammed his hand on the table, making the wine glasses jump. Free from this suffocating marriage. This boring life. This prison of responsibility. Melissa offered me a way out. New life. And you. He pointed at me. His finger shaking. You couldn't just accept it. You had to investigate. To interfere. To ruin everything. So what now? Asked. My voice steadier than I felt. Do you still plan to kill me? Here. Tonight. With your children on their way. That stopped him. The kids. I called Amy. Told her everything. She's coming here with Lisa. They'll be here within the hour. Lie. But a useful one. And I've sent all the evidence to my lawyer. And the police. You can't silence me anymore, Thomas. It's over. He stared at me. And I watched the calculation in his eyes. Weighing options. Assessing escape routes. Trying to find a way to salvage his plan. Then his shoulders slumped. He sat back down. Picked up the wine glass. Drained it. You think you're so smart, he said quietly. But you don't understand what you've done. Melissa isn't done with me. She's done with both of us. Those other men. They didn't die because she wanted money. They died because they became liabilities. Threats. And now we both are. A chill ran down my spine. What do you mean? I mean Melissa Rivers doesn't leave loose ends. And we're loose ends, Margaret. Both of us. She has evidence against me. And now she has evidence that you know about her. She can't let either of us talk to the police. So she'll. The kitchen window shattered. I hit the floor instinctively. Glass raining down around me. Thomas dove under the table. For a moment there was only silence. And the sound of our ragged breathing. Then footsteps on the back porch. Low. Measured. Coming toward the door. Thomas's eyes met mine across the kitchen floor. And in that moment I saw genuine terror there. Terror that matched my own. She's here, he whispered. God help us. She's here. The back door handle turned slowly. We weren't dealing with a con artist anymore. Or a schemer who worked through manipulation and forged documents. We were dealing with a killer. Who decided to eliminate her witnesses. And she was coming inside. The back door opened slowly. Melissa Rivers stepped into my kitchen like she owned it. She was wearing gloves. Black leather. And carrying nothing visible. But her presence filled the room with cold menace. Both of you. On your feet, she said calmly. Slowly, Thomas and I rose from the floor. Glass crunching under our shoes. My heart hammered against my ribs. But my mind was clear. This was the moment I'd been preparing for. Even if I hadn't known it. Melissa, Thomas began. I can explain. You texted me 7 times tonight, she interrupted, moving further into the kitchen. Desperate messages, begging me to come help you handle Margaret. You made me a co-conspirator in murder, Thomas. Put it in writing. Did you really think I'd ignore that liability? I never meant. Of course you didn't. You never think past your immediate needs. That's why you're a terrible criminal. She glanced at me. And you. So clever. Recording our conversation. Gathering evidence. Playing detective. You should have gone to the police immediately. Instead you came home to confront him. Fatal mistake. The police have everything, I said. If something happens to us. No, they don't. You're bluffing. Can tell. You wanted more evidence first. You wanted to catch him in the act. Get a confession. You're too thorough to go to the police with half a case. It's a teacher's instinct. Complete the research before drawing conclusions. She was right. And she knew it. The folder was still with Carol. The recording in my purse. Nothing had been delivered to the police yet. So what's your plan? I asked, forcing my voice steady. Kill us both. That's 2 murders, Melissa. Much harder to explain than one accident. Not when it's a murder-suicide. She moved toward the wine bottle on the table. Distraught husband planning to kill his wife gets caught by her. They struggle. She picked up the knife from the counter. The one I'd used to cut vegetables for dinner. He stabs her. And then, overcome with guilt, he takes his own life. Tragic end to a 38-year marriage. The whole neighborhood will talk about it for years. They'll investigate, Thomas said, his voice shaking. They'll find the financial transfers. The evidence. Evidence I'll provide myself. As the concerned business partner who tried to warn Margaret about her husband's declining mental state. His paranoia. His violent fantasies. Melissa set down the knife. Looked at us both. I've done this before. I know how to construct a narrative. The question is, which of you dies first? She was playing with us, enjoying this, and I realized something crucial. Melissa Rivers was most dangerous when she thought she'd won. You've made a mistake, I said quietly. Melissa laughed. Have I? Yes. You assumed I came home alone tonight. You assumed I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Pulled out my phone. Held it up so she could see the screen. I've been on an open call with Carol Hughes at the Seattle Public Library for the past 20 minutes. She's heard everything. Every word you've said. Melissa's smile faltered. Just for a second. But it was enough. You're lying. Am I? I hit the speaker button. Carol, are you there? I'm here, Margaret. Carol's voice filled the kitchen. Thin but clear through the phone speaker. And I've recorded everything. Melissa Rivers, I'm calling the police right now on my other line. They're on their way. Melissa's face went white. Then flushed with rage. She moved toward me fast. Grabbing for the phone. I'd spent 38 years being underestimated. Being seen as gentle. Passive. I threw the hot coffee from my mug directly into her face. Melissa screamed. Stumbling backward. Her hands going to her eyes. Thomas lunged for the knife on the counter. But I got there first. Sweeping it away from both of them. Out, I told Thomas. Front door. Now. We ran through the living room. Past 38 years of family photographs and carefully chosen furniture. Out the front door into the October night. Behind us, I heard Melissa recovering. Cursing. Crashing through the kitchen. Thomas's hands shook as he fumbled with his car keys. She'll kill us. No, she won't. Not now. Not with witnesses and recordings. I grabbed his arm. But we need to get to the police station. Right now. Before she runs. We got into his car. His hands were shaking too badly to drive. So I drove. Something I hadn't done with Thomas in the passenger seat in years. We flew down Capitol Hill toward the police station on 5th Avenue. And I called Carol back. Are the police really coming? Yes. On their way to your house. I called them the moment Melissa admitted to planning murder. They've been listening to the recording. Margaret, are you safe? Getting there. I looked at Thomas. His face was pale. His hands shaking. The man who had planned my murder, now terrified for his own life. Meet us at the station. Bring everything. Marian's voice was breathless. Stella, are you safe? Became Carol's Margaret, are you safe? The Seattle Police Department was lit up like a lighthouse. I pulled into the parking lot and we practically fell out of the car. Inside, the night sergeant looked up with alarm at our disheveled appearance. We need to report an attempted murder, I said. And a conspiracy. And fraud. And we have evidence. Within minutes, we were in an interview room. Within an hour, Carol arrived with the folder and the recordings. Within 2 hours, Detective Sarah Park was looking at everything we'd compiled with an expression of growing shock. Mrs. Chen, she said carefully, are you telling me that your husband conspired with Melissa Rivers to murder you? And then she attempted to kill you both when you discovered the plot? That's exactly what I'm telling you. I met her eyes. And I have proof of everything. Thomas sat beside me, his head in his hands. When the detective asked him to confirm my story, he just nodded. I wanted out of the marriage, he said quietly. I met Melissa 8 months ago. She was so different. Exciting. She made me feel young again. When she suggested I could liquidate the practice and start fresh, I jumped at it. He looked at me. And there were tears in his eyes. But I never wanted to kill you, Margaret. Swear. That was all Melissa's idea. She said it was the only way. That a divorce would destroy me financially. That you'd never agree to a fair settlement. She kept pushing and planning. And I went along with it because I'm a coward. So the scheduled messages. Detective Park asked. Melissa wrote them. Said they were just a fantasy game. I never thought she'd actually. His voice broke. I never thought any of this would actually happen. 'Twas a lie. Or half a lie. Thomas had wanted me dead. The evidence was clear. But now, faced with the consequences, he was trying to shift all the blame onto Melissa, making himself the manipulated victim instead of the co-conspirator. I didn't contradict him. Not yet. Let him think I'd forgive him. That I'd help him build his defense. The truth would come out eventually. In depositions and trials and careful examination of evidence. Melissa Rivers is extremely dangerous, I told Detective Park. She's killed before. At least 4 times. Men in situations identical to this. I have documentation. Carol stepped forward with newspaper articles. Research notes. Timelines. Detective Park's expression grew darker as she read. We've issued an APB for Rivers. And your recording is admissible under Washington's 2-party consent laws since you were both participants in the conversation. He said. We'll have officers at your home, Mrs. Chen. And we'll need full statements from both of you. This is going to take several hours. I'm not going anywhere, I said. We sat in that interview room until dawn, telling the story again and again. Thomas's version emphasized Melissa's manipulation, her predatory nature, his weakness and regret. My version was simpler. The truth. Documented and provable. At 4 a.m, my daughters arrived. Amy and Lisa. Their faces pale with shock and fear. They'd received my text about meeting at the police station. And had driven through the night from Portland. Mom. Amy pulled me into her arms. Dad called us. Said something terrible happened. Are you okay? Over her shoulder I saw Thomas watching us. His face full of manufactured remorse and desperate hope. I'm fine, I said. But there's a lot I need to tell you about your father. About everything. We sat in a conference room. All of us. Finally. And I told my children the truth. Showed them the evidence. The scheduled messages. The financial transfers. The fake medical records. Melissa Rivers's history. I watched their faces change as they listened. Watched them look at their father with growing horror and disbelief. Dad. Lisa's voice was small. Is this true? Thomas opened his mouth, closed it. What could he say? The evidence was overwhelming. His explanations were tissue-thin. I made terrible mistakes, he said finally. I was weak, foolish, but I never wanted to actually hurt your mother. You have to believe that. You scheduled messages about her funeral, Amy said, her voice hard. You gave another woman $600,000. You tried to have Mom declared incompetent. Melissa manipulated me. You're an adult, Lisa's hands were shaking. You're our father. You don't get to blame everything on someone else. You made choices. You chose to betray Mom. You chose to plan her murder. It was never real. Just fantasy. Just. Stop. I held up one hand. Thomas, stop lying to them. To yourself. To me. I looked at my children. Your father wanted me dead so he could start a new life. With money from his practice and my life insurance. He brought Melissa Rivers into it because he needed help staging it. She played along because she saw an opportunity to take everything and eliminate both of us. They're both guilty. The degree might differ. But they both planned to kill me. Silence filled the conference room. Outside, dawn was breaking over Seattle, painting the sky pink and gold. Lisa started crying. Amy put her arm around her sister. Amy just stared at his father with an expression I'd never seen before. Complete rejection. I think, Amy said slowly, that you're going to need a lawyer, Dad. And you're not going to be staying with any of us while you wait for trial. Thomas's face crumbled. Amy, please. No. My daughter stood. You tried to kill our mother. There's no coming back from that. Detective Park appeared in the doorway. About 3 hours after the incident, we located Melissa Rivers at the airport. She was attempting to board a flight to Miami. We have her in custody. Relief flooded through me so intensely I had to sit down. She's asking for a lawyer, the detective continued. But she's also making statements, trying to cut a deal. She's claiming you. She nodded at Thomas. We're the primary planner. That she was just a consultant who got in over her head. Of course she is. Laura Hardy was a survivor, became Melissa Rivers was a survivor. And survivors threw others under the bus when necessary. We'll need more statements, Detective Park said. From all of you. This is going to be a long investigation. How long? Yes. Months. Maybe longer. We're looking at conspiracy to commit murder. Attempted murder. Fraud. Embezzlement. The list keeps growing. She looked at me with something like respect. Mrs. Chen, you did incredible work gathering this evidence. Most victims never see it coming. I'm not most victims, I said quietly. By 6 in the morning we were finally allowed to leave. Amy offered to drive me home. But I declined. I needed to see my house. My home. In daylight. Needed to reclaim it from the violence that had invaded it last night. Thomas was being held for further questioning. He'd be charged eventually. The evidence was too strong. His lawyer would argue manipulation, diminished capacity, anything to reduce his sentence. But he'd go to prison. I was certain of that. Melissa Rivers would fight harder. She had experience with investigations, with constructing narratives. But this time she'd left too many witnesses, too much evidence. Carol's recording was damning. My testimony was detailed and credible. And most importantly, she'd gotten arrogant. She'd underestimated a 64-year-old teacher and paid the price. I drove home alone through streets I'd known for 38 years, past Pike Place Market, coffee shops, Kevin's. Became Danny's repair shop where this had all begun. The house was surrounded by police tape. Officers were still processing the scene, photographing the shattered window, collecting evidence, documenting Melissa's break-in. I stood on the sidewalk and looked at my home. The place where I'd raised 2 daughters, celebrated 38 anniversaries, lived a life I'd thought was safe and predictable. Mrs. Chen, a young officer, approached. We're almost finished here. You should be able to get back in by this afternoon. Is there somewhere you can stay until then? I'll figure something out. Ma'am, he hesitated. For what it's worth, you're the bravest person I've ever met. What you did last night, calling your friend, recording everything, throwing that coffee, you saved your own life. And probably your husband's too. He's not my husband anymore, I said. Not in any way that matters. I walked away from that house, got back in my car, and drove to Kerry Park, the same bench where I'd sat yesterday, trying to make sense of the chaos. The bay was calm this morning, reflecting the sunrise, beautiful, peaceful, deceptive in its tranquility, just like my marriage had been. My phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. Hello, Mrs. Chen, this is attorney David Park. I'm representing your husband. I have nothing to say to him. I understand. But I wanted you to know that Thomas wants to plead guilty. He's prepared to cooperate fully with the prosecution, testify against Melissa Rivers, and accept whatever sentence the court determines. He's asked me to tell you he's sorry, and that he knows he doesn't deserve forgiveness. He's right. He doesn't. He also wants you to know that he's instructed me to ensure you retain all marital assets. The house, the practice sale proceeds, everything. He's not going to fight you on the divorce or the property settlement. I laughed. Sound without humor. How generous. He'll give me what's already mine, while he goes to prison for trying to kill me. Mrs. Chen. Tell Thomas that sorry isn't enough. Tell him that 38 years of deception can't be erased with a guilty plea. And tell him that I hope he lives a very long life in prison, thinking every day about what he threw away. Hung up. The sun was fully up now, warming the October morning. Around me, Seattle was waking up. Joggers on the path, dogs being walked, the ordinary rhythm of life continuing. Despite the extraordinary events of the past 48 hours, it survived. Through intelligence, courage, and the refusal to be the victim everyone assumed I'd be. But survival was only the beginning. Now came the hard part. Rebuilding a life from the rubble of a 38-year lie. 4 months later, I stood in the courtroom and watched Melissa Rivers receive her sentence. 30 years for conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, fraud, and a list of other charges that took the judge 6 minutes to read aloud. She'd fought until the end, her lawyers constructing elaborate defenses. But Carol's recording had been irrefutable. My testimony had been unshakable. And when investigators dug deeper into those 4 previous deaths, they'd found patterns, financial irregularities, suspicious timing, witnesses who'd been afraid to speak before. Melissa Rivers would likely die in prison. She looked at me as the bailiffs led her away, her face a mask of cold fury. I met her gaze without flinching. She'd underestimated me, and that mistake had cost her everything. Thomas's sentencing had been quieter. 15 years for conspiracy to commit murder, reduced because of his cooperation and guilty plea. His lawyer had argued that he'd been manipulated, that Melissa had been the primary architect of the plot. The judge had been unmoved. "You are a 66-year-old man," she'd said from the bench, looking at Thomas with barely concealed disgust. "A professional, a father and grandfather. You chose to participate in a plot to murder your wife of 38 years, rather than have an honest conversation about divorce. That choice reveals profound moral bankruptcy, regardless of who initiated the plan." My daughters had attended his sentencing. They'd sat behind me, silent, their support a physical presence at my back. When Thomas had turned to look at us before being led away, none of them had met his eyes. The divorce had been finalized 3 weeks ago. Kept the house, the retirement accounts, and my share of the accounting practice sale proceeds. After the court-appointed receiver closed the sale in February 2025, Thomas's lawyer had made good on his promise. Thomas didn't contest anything. Perhaps he genuinely felt guilty. Or perhaps he'd simply recognized that fighting would only make things worse. I didn't care which. I had what I needed to rebuild. Today I was meeting with the real estate agent. The house on Capitol Hill was too large for one person. Too full of ghosts and broken memories. I decided to sell it and buy something smaller. Condo overlooking the water perhaps. Something that was entirely mine. Untainted by the past. Mrs. Chen, the agent, a woman named Patricia Lee, smiled at me across her desk. I have excellent news. We've received 4 offers on your property. All above asking price. The market is very strong right now. We reviewed the offers together. One was from a young family. Couple with 3 children. Their letter full of excitement about raising their kids in the neighborhood. I thought about Amy and Lisa playing in that backyard. Climbing the old apple tree. Learning to ride bikes on the quiet street. This one, I said, pointing to the young family's offer. I'll accept this one. It's actually the lowest of the 4 offers, Patricia noted gently. I know. But they'll love the house the way it deserves to be loved. That matters more than an extra $30,000. Patricia smiled. You have a kind heart, Mrs. Chen. I thought about that as I drove away from the real estate office. Kind wasn't the word most people had been using to describe me lately. The local news had covered the trial extensively, painting me as either a hero or a victim, depending on the outlet. My story had been picked up nationally. Woman outsmarts husband's murder plot, ran in the New York Times. A producer from a true crime podcast had called 5 times. I declined all interview requests. This wasn't a story I wanted to tell for entertainment. It was my life, my pain, my survival. I didn't owe anyone else access to it. Danny Martinez had been one of the few bright spots in the aftermath. He'd testified at both trials, explaining how he'd found the scheduled messages, how he'd immediately known something was wrong. His testimony had been crucial. It established the timeline, proved the premeditation. You saved my life, I told him afterward. You saved your own life, he'd corrected. I just gave you information. Everything after that, the investigation, the evidence gathering, the confrontation, that was all you. He was right, of course. But I'd learned something important over these 4 months. You don't survive alone. Carol's help had been invaluable. Danny's warning had been essential. My daughter's support had kept me grounded when everything felt surreal and impossible. Community mattered. Connection mattered. And I'd spent 38 years in a marriage that had isolated me, made me smaller, convinced me that Thomas's approval was all I needed. Never again. I pulled into the driveway of the Capitol Hill house one last time. Tomorrow the movers would come. Next week, I'd hand over the keys to that young family and their dreams. Inside, the house was mostly empty now. Boxes lined the hallways. Furniture covered with sheets. I kept very little. Photographs of my daughters. Books I couldn't bear to part with. A few pieces my mother had left me. Everything else was going to charity or to the kids. I didn't want anything that reminded me of Thomas. My phone rang. Lisa. Mom, are you home? We're outside. All 3 of my children stood on the porch. No, wait. 2 children. Amy with her husband James. Lisa alone after her recent breakup. They were carrying grocery bags and bottles of wine. We thought you could use company on your last night here, Amy said. And we brought supplies for a proper goodbye dinner, Lisa added. We cooked together in the kitchen where Melissa Rivers had threatened our lives. We ate at the dining room table where I'd served countless family meals. Where Thomas had pretended everything was normal while planning my death. We drank wine and told stories. Good memories from before everything shattered. Because those memories deserved to be preserved. Even if the marriage itself had been a lie. Do you remember when Dad tried to assemble that bookshelf? Lisa asked, laughing. And it fell apart the moment he put books on it. And he insisted he'd done it correctly. That the instructions were wrong. Amy added. We all laughed. But there was pain beneath the humor. Grief for what we'd lost. For the father they'd thought they knew. For the family unit that had seemed so solid. And was revealed to be built on sand. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I'm sorry that I didn't see it earlier. That I let you all believe everything was fine for so long." "Mom, no." Lisa reached across the table. Took my hand. "You didn't let us believe anything. He lied to all of us. For years. Probably. You're not responsible for his deception. But I should have." "What?" "Read his mind. Monitored his every action." Amy shook her head. "You trusted your husband. That's not a failure, Mom. That's what marriage is supposed to be. He's the one who betrayed that trust." "You're the bravest person I know," Lisa said. Her eyes bright with unshed tears. "When you found out what he was planning, you didn't fall apart. You didn't run away. You fought back. You gathered evidence. You outsmarted both of them. And you survived. You're our hero, Mom." I let myself cry then. The first real tears I'd shed since that October night when everything changed. My children surrounded me, holding me, letting me release months of fear and grief and rage. "I thought I'd be devastated," I admitted. "Losing the marriage. Losing the house. Losing the life I'd built. But I'm not. I'm relieved." "Is that terrible?" "It's honest," James said gently. "And honesty is what you deserve now. After 38 years of lies. We stayed up late. Long after we'd normally have gone to bed. We played cards. A game we'd played as a family for decades. And drank too much wine. And laughed until we cried. And for the first time in months I felt light. Free." At 11, as my children were preparing to leave, Amy pulled me aside. "I went to see Dad last week," she said quietly. I stiffened. "You don't need my permission." "I know. But I wanted you to know." She looked uncomfortable. "He's not doing well. Prison is. It's hard on him. He's lost weight. He looks old. He is old. We both are. He asked about you. Whether you were okay. Whether you'd found a new place." Amy met my eyes. "I didn't tell him anything. I said you were doing well. That you were moving forward." He cried. "Good. Mom." "No, Amy. I know you want me to feel sorry for him. To forgive him. But I can't. Maybe someday. But not now. Not when I still wake up sometimes and wonder if he would have actually gone through with it. If he would have held me while I died. Knowing he'd killed me." Amy hugged me tightly. "You don't have to forgive him. I just wanted you to know that he's suffering. That he knows what he lost." After they left, I walked through the empty house one final time. Each room held memories. Birthdays and holidays and ordinary Wednesdays. I'd been happy here once. Or I'd thought I was happy. Which maybe amounted to the same thing. But happiness built on lies isn't real. And I was done with anything that wasn't real. I spent my last night in the house sleeping on an air mattress in the master bedroom. Surrounded by boxes. And when dawn broke over Seattle, I felt ready. Ready to leave. Ready to start over. Ready to be Margaret Chen. Not Thomas's wife. Or the murder plot survivor. But just myself. Whoever that turned out to be. The movers came at 7. By noon the house was empty. By 1 o'clock I'd handed the keys to Patricia Lee. And driven away without looking back. My new condo was downtown. In a renovated building near Pike Place Market. Smaller than the house. Just 2 bedrooms. One for me and one for guests. But the windows overlooked Elliott Bay. And the space felt like possibility. Carol helped me unpack. Chattering about library news and her grandson's new school. Danny stopped by with a housewarming gift. A new tablet. Top of the line. Already set up and ready to use. "For your next investigation," he joked. "There won't be a next investigation," I assured him. "I'm done with mysteries." But that wasn't entirely true. Because the biggest mystery remained. Who was I now that I wasn't Thomas's wife? Now that I didn't have to be accommodating, careful. Over the next weeks I began to find out. I joined a book club. A real one. Not the polite social gathering I'd attended before, but a group that read challenging books and had passionate, sometimes heated discussions. I started painting classes, something I'd always wanted to do but never had time for. I volunteered at the library, helping Carol with literacy programs for adults learning to read. I dated tentatively a retired architect I met at the art supply store. Teacher from the book club. Nothing serious. Nothing that required promises or compromises. Just conversation and companionship. On my terms. I discovered that I liked living alone. Liked making decisions without consulting anyone. Liked eating dinner at 8 if I wanted to. Or not eating dinner at all. Liked the silence and the solitude. And the freedom to be exactly who I was. Without editing myself. 7 months after Melissa's sentencing, I received a letter. Forwarded from my lawyer. It was from Thomas. Written from the federal prison in Oregon where he was serving his sentence. I almost threw it away unopened. But curiosity, the same quality that had saved my life, made me read it. Dear Margaret, I don't expect you to respond to this. I don't even know if you'll read it. But I need to say some things. Even if only to the void. I was a fool. Coward. A selfish man who threw away everything valuable for a fantasy. I told myself I was unhappy. That I deserved more. That you didn't understand me. But the truth is simpler and uglier. I was bored. And instead of dealing with that honestly, I destroyed our life. You were always the strong one. I see that now. You raised our daughters while I focused on my career. You maintained our home. Our social connections. Our family bonds. You were the foundation of everything good in my life. And I was planning to kill you. Rather than have an honest conversation about what I needed. I think about that every day in here. About how close I came to murder. About what I would have lost. Not just my freedom, but my soul. Melissa manipulated me. But I let her. I wanted to believe her promises because they let me avoid responsibility. That's on me. All of it. I hope you're happy, Margaret. I hope you're building a life that makes you feel as free and alive as you deserve to feel. I hope someday our daughters can forgive me. Though I don't deserve it. And I hope you know that what you did, fighting back, surviving, refusing to be a victim, that took more courage than I've ever had in my entire life. I'm sorry for everything. Thomas. I read the letter twice. Then I folded it carefully. And put it in a drawer. I didn't respond. I didn't forgive him. But I acknowledged his words. His regret. His recognition of what he'd done. And then I moved on. Because that was the real victory. Not the trial. Not the sentencing. Not even the survival. The victory was building a life so full and satisfying that Thomas's absence didn't leave a hole. The victory was discovering that at 64 years old, I was stronger, braver, and more capable than I'd ever known. 1 year after that October night when everything changed, I stood on my balcony overlooking Elliott Bay. Watched the sunset paint the water gold and red. The air smelled of salt and possibility. Below, Seattle bustled with life. Tourists and locals. Students and artists. The beautiful chaos of a city in motion. My phone buzzed. Text from Lisa. Dinner tomorrow. I want you to meet someone special. I smiled and texted back. I'd love to. Behind me, my condo was warm and welcoming. Filled with books I loved. And paintings I'd created. And photographs of people who mattered. It was small, but mine. Every inch of it reflected my choices. My taste. My life. No secrets. No lies. No compromises that made me smaller. At 64, I'd learned the most important lesson of my life. Survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about refusing to let anyone, even someone you've loved for 38 years, define who you are or what you're worth. I'd spent decades being underestimated. Being seen as the quiet wife. The helpful teacher. The nice woman who never made waves. And when it mattered most, that underestimation had been my greatest weapon. Because while Thomas and Melissa were planning my death, I was planning my survival. While they were congratulating themselves on their cleverness, I was gathering evidence. While they thought they'd won, I was 3 steps ahead. Age isn't weakness. Experience isn't obsolescence. And a woman who's lived 64 years has learned things about patience, persistence, and power that young arrogance can never comprehend. I survived because I refused to be the victim they assumed I'd be. I survived because I was smarter, tougher, and more resourceful than they gave me credit for. I survived because I'd spent a lifetime observing, learning, preparing for challenges I didn't even know were coming. And now, standing in my own space, living my own life, answering to no one but myself. I wasn't just surviving. I was thriving. The sun set over the bay, and I watched it without fear, without regret, without anything but gratitude for the second chance I'd fought so hard to earn. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new possibilities, new chapters in a story that was finally truly mine. But tonight I was simply Margaret Chen, 64 years old, wiser than ever, and finally completely free. Now tell me, what would you have done if you were in my place? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching Granny's Voice. And don't forget to check out the video on your screen right now. I'm sure it will surprise you.